welcome to UniverSoul Women, and I'm Sherryl Lin.
And I'm Dr. Julie, and we are coming together to ignite radical cultural change. And this is an important topic. So let me introduce this topic because first I'm just going to invite us to take a few deep breaths and come into our heart and really expand into connection with that divine source, connection with one another, connection with those listening right now, connection with the earth. Just being in this place, because this topic for women is so important. So a few more breaths and hopefully we'll inspire others to fully embody who we are and our highest expression on the planet. So you and I have people who ask us, what is it that you do? And I think I talked about this on another show. I recently went on a trip, and you remember this story, Sherryl. I went on a trip to California, and we met some people that we knew in the Omaha airport. And they're like, what is it that you do again? And I'm explaining it. And then we get to Phoenix, and our flight's delayed and then canceled, and then we're rebooked. And so we had all this time in Phoenix. And the same woman came up to me and said, what is it that you do again? I was trying to describe it to Greg, and I couldn't even describe it to him.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an important part. When we talk about UniverSoul Women, we're called, and there's this innate passion to co-create change on the planet, to help heal, and to bring the source consciousness more embodied in form and move with that in culture, like to create a culture that knows how to co-create from that place. And so it encompasses wholeness. It encompasses so much. So let me begin by asking you, dear Sherryl, if I asked you what you did, what is it that you do? You might give me this 2-sentence elevator speech and people would go, huh? What? So, but let's begin with that. And then I'll ask you another question to try to really lift that emergence of your essence a little bit more forward. And this is good practice for all those listening, because it is time for UniverSoul Women to step up and be in their fullest expression. So what is it that you do, Sherryl?
It's so funny because there's been for years like a sense of dread when someone asked me, because it's hard to describe. There's just no, even people that have experienced my work are kind of like, I'm not sure the word, like it's beyond words what you do. So, on my website, it says I'm a medical intuitive and spiritual guide. That is like the mini elevator speech that says really doesn't say very much. So what I'm passionate about, I think that is a big part of it. What I'm really passionate about and what I've seen for my own life and then have been seriously called to assist others, is that we have forgotten who we are as women, as men, as humans. We've forgotten ourselves. And what I do is I help people to clear away all the things that they're not, the things that society has told you that you are, the things that you thought you were because you're good at something where that isn't necessarily you. Just clearing away all of that chatter and the chatter of mass consciousness, like I'm supposed to be a this or I'm supposed to be a that, to get to the core of who you are. And operate from that place. Operate from the place where you're actually connected and feel that connection to whatever your word is for connecting to your higher levels of consciousness, God, spirit, universe, angels, whatever that is. So you walk around feeling like you're embodying that you know that you're connected to something bigger than yourself. And when you operate from that place, then all of that fear and anxiety, a lot of the physical symptoms are from being disconnected from who you are. That we forget our essence, and it causes all sorts of disharmony in the body.
Mm.
So that's a piece of it anyway. Probably one of the most important pieces of it.
So I'm going to invite you to share more of your passion, because you're describing what you do for people, and it's all really important. It's beautiful. But what is it that fuels this vocation, this impulse in you, that this knowing, and this, what is it that fuels it? What's the why behind this? Because it's so much bigger than what you've just expressed.
I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it. So you asked the right question. um, so it started when I was a little kid, and I know that a lot of the intuitive abilities that I have now, and a lot of the things that I saw I had back then, they really got squashed out of me. And my mom would say things like, "Oh, you have such an active imagination," and no, that I really see that, or I really hear that. And then I started thinking that, well, maybe an imagination, whatever that was bad. And so I shouldn't think that way, or I shouldn't see things that way. So it really did get squashed out of me. And then I spent, it's like much of my life trying to find that again. And I read books, and I took courses, and I tried different religious practices and meditation, and went to different spiritual teachers and gurus, and it went on and on and on. And in the meantime, I didn't feel like I had any center. I didn't feel like I had that direct connection myself. And I thought someone else could tell me, like, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to believe. And it was very painful. And I ended up being in my ego a lot, because I thought that there was some lofty goal to achieve. Like, oh, if I can just figure out what this thing is, then, I'll be wealthy and famous. This was when I was younger. And it was a very painful experience that I had, which was part of my spiritual awakening, where I realized that no one else had the answer. That when I did, for the last time, give my power away to a spiritual teacher, and it knocked me flat. And it took me, I call it my dark night of the soul, because it took me out for a good year of my life where I didn't feel like I was functioning as anything. I felt like empty, like a shell. But what emerged from that, well, first of all, was like, I am never giving my power away to anyone or anything again. And then I had to slowly piece myself back together and find that sense of myself and that connection that I had. And because by then I'd had some really very obvious taps on the shoulder and mystical experiences, I knew that it had nothing to do with any of the things that I thought it had to do with. And it had everything to do with me connecting to source, and to trust that, and to trust myself, and to trust that, if God, universe, spirit put me here, it was for a good reason, and that I had a mission, and that that I was going to, in my healing and in my remembrance of myself, I was going to help other people who I saw were doing the same thing, trying to find themselves, trying to remember their innate gifts that they came to the planet with. Mm. So that's what fuels me. We are bombarded gonna get choked up again. We are bombarded every day with information and ideas. And, some of them are great. There's nothing wrong with them. But there's so much propaganda telling us what to believe and telling us what to feel and telling us how to act and telling us how to be a good person and telling us what a bad person is, and all of this judgment and pressure. And none of it is really that important. None of it is as important as our own connection to our higher levels, but also to each other, to the true essence of each other.
Mm.
So that's what fuels me.
That was beautiful. Thank you. When you talked, what I'm hearing, which I think is really beautiful, is that personal journey of yours, of that true connection, your true nature of who you are as this source consciousness in Sherryl form. Your journey to that place is the juice, the energy, the heart of your work. And then it comes out in a lot of ways, because you're a beautiful writer, you're beautiful. There's so many different ways that it assists others. And yes, you are a medical intuitive and a coach, you're a healer, you are so much more. But the essence that I hear you speaking about is when you're in that place of pure communication, then wisdom and insight and this field, you kind of hold this field where this wisdom and insight can help facilitate others. So all of a sudden you're creating the conditions for their higher self to come forward.
Yeah.
So you do that in a lot of expressions, but you might want to speak about that.
So one of the things that it comes down to is we think it's about safety, like it's important that we feel safe. But I think I know that it's a lot deeper than that. What it is, it's this feeling of feeling love. It's when we feel that we can open our hearts to each other, when we can walk around knowing that we're loved and supported, and that nothing can shake us because of that love, that inherent love that we have, and that loving connection that we have with others. And that is at the essence of really what I do, because it's not difficult for me to feel love when I'm working with someone. I feel it's like I can see in their field all of the pain, all of the hurts, things come up from, ancestral memories in their DNA, and, pain that they're having in their physical body, or experiences that they're having in their relationships that are painful. And I can feel that, but I can also go right in and pierce through all of that illusion to their essence and see the love that they are. And that is the thing that heals. That's the thing that helps us to live in a crazy planet, on this crazy planet, with all sorts of interesting energies flying around, and still survive. Like sometimes I know for some people who are really sensitive, it's hard to be on the planet at this time. And addiction and ways to check out, it's understandable, because it's not easy to get up in the morning when you're not sure what's going to happen with the environment, or when you hear stories of people not treating each other very well. It kind of seems discouraging. But when you can tap into that love that you are, then there seems to be a way to find where your place is in all of it, and that your existence is, there's a purpose for it. It's not just random that you just happen to be here right now on this planet. There's a part that you can play. There's a longing in most people that I work with, that there's this longing to help. There's this longing to create. There's this longing to soothe others or soothe the planet. And that really is at the core of it.
Beautiful. What a beautiful expression of how it comes out in the world through Sherryl Lin. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can give a testimonial.
Yeah, you've known me for a while and had
Yeah.
sessions with me too.
I've known you for a very long time now, and I've had multiple sessions with you. And yeah, you're just a very clear channel of source. You're just very clear. And so you see, you hear, you guide, and it's beautiful. And you heal, and you literally go in and fix things that we don't know are broken, you know? So those are the bonuses. But yeah, you have a gift, and it is a blessing. And I trust that, yeah, you'll be using that in bigger and bigger ways in the days to come, because we need to hear that voice.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Julie, it's your turn now. And I get goosebumps sometimes when I hear you talking about your passion for what you do, what you're here to do in the world. So I really would like you to just dive into that, and really, what is that passion that where does that come from, that passion that you have for assisting the planet to become more connected and conscious, and all of the things that you're about? Tell me a little bit more about that passion.
Listen to me. Oh my gosh. So when you said that, I just feel like I have to clear my throat. I have to clear my throat. So I just want to presence that to those women out there, that sometimes this thing is so big inside of us. And I caught myself this week. I'll just share this with you before I go into it. I caught myself this week. We're doing this global Love Lives Here Earth Day edition. And my little video, I felt like I shouldn't put my video on the homepage of the digest. And, you know, I wanted to put everybody else's stuff up, and wow, here's this, and here's this, and here's this. And I had a really tough time putting my piece there. And like, what is that about? And that is like a big part of healing for us. So as I clear my throat, hopefully that's not too loud. It's like literally asking me about that. I love to talk about it, but there's this thing we do as women. So I just want to presence that, so that we can give each other permission to really step into that bigness and be big. It's time to be big and go all out. And I don't do that. Okay. So let me pause and shift. What was the question, Cheryl? What is my passion behind what I do? Where did it come from?
You were so concerned about the I can't answer this question, it's too uncomfortable, that you forgot the question.
Yeah, and my throat was like, yeah. Okay.
So as you open to express, the question is, describe that passion that drives you to want to assist the world, because you have this global vision that's just so beautiful. So what is that passion? Like, where did that come from?
Well, where that came from is really visceral inside of me every day. every day I feel this and I remember this. So it goes back to when I was a child. So your story was really beautiful about childhood. When I was a child, I had a near-death experience at the age of 4. And from that place, I was in a different realm, and I was all consciousness and no body. And I felt that and experienced that from age 4. And I had a lot of early childhood trauma, darkness, shadow stuff of other people's shadow that I was living in other people's shadows from a young age. And after that near-death experience, I continued that connection with divine source in the other realms. I just walked in both worlds. And so I had that direct communication. I had this conversation going. And when this dimension of the world was unfolding with just more of other people's shadow, I often would say, what is going on with these humans? I don't get them, and I really don't want to be here, and why do I have to be here? And one time when I was 11 years old, I went out into the yard having this conversation with Source going, I really don't get these humans. I feel alone. You know, this was a huge piece of it. Now I'm going to tear up. I felt so alone. I felt so isolated, and I felt so not supported in this realm. And I think a lot of people know what that feels like. You don't have to have a near-death experience to feel that in this world today. But I went outside, and I was 11, and I'm just having that conversation saying, I don't get these humans. I don't want to be here. Can't I just go home? I just want to go to that other realm. I just want to check out. Yeah, and I sat down on the grass and had this really prophetic, beautiful, non-ordinary state of consciousness where I was out of my body and left my body and kind of did this journey. It was this gorgeous journey that informs me every day. But I literally left my body. I could see me sitting on the grass, and I could see the neighborhood, and I just was just ascended out into the cosmos. And I had a helper, wisdom keeper, yummy, sacred mentor person with me, kind of like, it's a man who's older, kind of like a wizard. And literally, he reminds me of one of my favorite real person mentors on the planet. He was just such a delight. So anyway, when I'm out in space, looking back at the earth, I'm looking back at the earth, and I could see it as a whole living organism. And it was and I always say this is how I described it from when I was very young. It was as if we were holding the earth in this like snow globe. Like we were holding the earth hovering over my hands, and I'm going to earth school. So like images of what's happening on the planet were there. I was just being communicated with non-verbally, totally got it. Just like everything was taken in. And I don't want to go into the details. I'll have to tell that story later. But literally, we had this beautiful light, this gorgeous illumination of the planet. Sparks of light were igniting around the planet when this big beam of light came down, like the glitter in a snow globe. Like when the glitter lands on the planet, the glitter began to light, and then the lights began to connect. And then the connections began to weave, and I saw the healing of our planet, and it was all about consciousness. So as I'm experiencing this, the movie, the imagery, the healing shifted, and I could see what was happening on the planet. And I know it's like weird. I was 11 years old. Like, how could I really get what was going on? But I could totally see what was happening, and I saw my place in that. And it comes from deep within my bones to help heal the consciousness on our planet and to shift our worldview to the whole worldview of who we really are as one living system, as one living organism, that we're not separate from one another. We're not separate from the earth. We're not separate from creative source. We're not separate from our bodies. And yet we're so much more than all of that.
Mm.
So it really is about healing our worldview, shifting our worldview, healing consciousness on the planet, and helping people really experience that kind of wholeness, that kind of health and wholeness in their being.
So beautiful. So how, like, describe a little bit some of the ways that you do this. So it's a beautiful vision, and you've helped so many people and continue to help many, many, and I know you're going to be helping a lot more. But describe a little bit about, some of the projects, some of the sessions that you do, just so people have an idea about that.
Okay. So one of the things, this is like, what do you do? There's that question again. What is it that you really do? So, like, I've been a psychotherapist for more than 30 some years in my life. So I've had this relationship of how to heal from that realm, and then been an energy healer and a Reiki master. And so I've had all of that healing place. But literally, healing the consciousness is like a different kind of level. So, um, I literally work with different leaders, different emerging leaders, or leaders who are here on the planet to lead the change. Some people say, oh, that's light workers, or that's, the, I don't know, there's lots of different words and language to describe who's here on the planet to do this work right now. But I work with leaders one-on-one, do some coaching, limited because I don't have that many hours in my week to do that, but work with them to really embody this worldview and really step into their expression, much like you, that highest expression of how they can literally lead the change. So it's kind of like taking Gandhi's saying of be the change you want to see in the world. And I take it and say, lead the change you want to see. Because being it is one thing, but now is the time on our planet to really lead the solutions, lead the innovation, lead the just voicing, just speaking our truth of what's working and what's not working on our planet. And it's really time to lead that change and to speak that with clarity and truth in a way. So I also work bringing those leaders together. So I'm the co-founder of an organization called Good of the Whole. And Good of the Whole is really about that ethos of wholeness, of creating a culture of wholeness and learning how to really embody that and experience wholeness, and then literally how to express that wholeness in the world and how to engage. So it's not just leaders, it's everyone from the grassroots to the evolutionary edge, that we begin expressing wholeness in our lives for the good of the whole, and standing in that love that you talk about, standing in love for the good of the whole. So Good of the Whole brings together individuals and organizations to literally create that greater network, to literally be the manifestation of that vision that I saw of the linking and then the weaving of that consciousness, that we're really bringing that in fuller form on our planet so that people can wake to who they really are and experience that from a much deeper level.
Very cool. So I know, because I know you, that you're going to be coming out with a book soon, and you're one of the most amazing writers that I know of. You just have such a way with words. And tell a little bit about your writing kind of in general, but also if there's anything you want to say about this book that's about to come out.
Thank you. This first book is called Fractured Grace: How to Create Beauty, Peace, and Healing for Yourself and the World. And Mm. I take the reader on a journey, and it begins with an accident that I had. I believe there are no accidents, and I'm one that tunes into everything going on and asking what is the meaning behind this and what's the guidance in this and how to move forward. So I literally had this really bizarre accident and snapped 6 bones in my leg and my ankle, and ended up sitting in a chair for a very long time with a full leg cast and healing, and then having complications that created more healing that took literally almost 4 years to get basically kind of normal. And as a healer, my ego didn't like that. Like, I should be able to heal like that, right? So this book takes us on a journey of understanding healing and how to create the conditions for our healing to come forward, so that we're on this journey. You're hearing about my leg, and you're hearing about all my experiences, but you're also hearing about my early childhood, some of these fun experiences that I've had in non-ordinary states of consciousness, some play that I've had in co-creating, and just a lot of storytelling throughout the book. And then helping the reader really tap into understanding their wholeness and the earth's wholeness and what's going on right now. So I help the reader relax a little bit into the healing, because there's so much going on in the world. There's so much happening, and there's so much fear and anxiety over everything that's breaking down. And there's very simple solutions to really understand why and how things are breaking down. It has to do with our levels of consciousness and how everything on the planet literally was constructed under this idea that we're separate from one another. We're separate from the planet. We can literally take anything from the planet we want and take, and rape and pillage. And because we're over it, we have dominion over the planet, we have dominion over other people in our old hierarchical models of patriarchy. And so we are no longer able to sustain that worldview, because it's not the truth of who we are. So literally all these systems and structures are breaking down. So we talk about that, and how the new systems and structures are already here, but we don't know that. Many people don't understand that the solutions are emerging on every continent, in almost every country of our world. There's all kinds of beautiful solutions, innovations, answers to our global crisis. And they're right there emerging if we could just focus on them. But most people don't understand that. So I talk about that. I talk about the world and how to relax into this, so that we're really creating the conditions for our individual healing and planetary healing at the same time.
Beautiful. Yeah. Can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
So one final question is, I think, will be a good way to wrap up. So when it's time for you to leave the planet and leave your human body, Julie, excuse me, how will you know that you have accomplished your mission? That, like, what will make you feel like I did what I came here to do?
Wow. This is a really intriguing question, and I just want to presence it again for our listeners, because I think so often we get caught up in a result, like peace on earth by 2030. And how do we measure that? And what does that look like? Like, I'm working with organizations that really, we want to, in 2020, launch a big global campaign for peace on earth by 2030. How do we measure that? Are we just looking at war? Are we just looking at, like, how do we measure that? So I just thank you for asking this. I think it's really important for all of our listeners, and as a teachable moment for all of us. How do we measure our work? And so the Julie question, I thought a lot about this, and I don't know that I have a good answer, but I thought a lot about this. And I know from when I was 4 years old, and then 11 years old, and then in my young 20s. And I've been, it's like I've been given, this is mine to do, and I'll be doing this, and I'll be doing this. And I've always been focused on the outcome and not the this. I knew I'd write a book, so I got to get the book written. I got to get the book written. I knew I would be speaking on stages. I knew I would be speaking to a lot of people, and I always knew that. But I'm focused on the peace on earth part, and the evolving consciousness part, and the waking others to their true, authentic nature. And I've been focused on that part and not the this. It's my expression to help contribute to that. And so for me, as I've been really pondering this question, this is brilliant. Good job. This is a great question. And as I've been pondering this, I've been able to shift from the outcome that's way out there, the tomorrow, the when we get here, when we get to the finish line, it will look like this, to that when I'm just living in the joy of me speaking and teaching, then I've done what I'm here to do. And so I'm backing up. I'm moving in. I'm like going through this metamorphosis right now to come back into just the joy and the ease of speaking and teaching. So that clearing my voice earlier was an important part of me reminding myself, like, yeah, just come into the joy of speaking and teaching and healing. And that's enough. Then I don't have to measure and say, wow, are we going to have peace on earth by 2030? Or, wow, did I wake up anybody? I don't wake anybody up. I just create the conditions. I don't want to say that. Cancel, clear, erase, because it's not my responsibility to wake people. But if my voice can contribute to someone going, let me think about this differently. Let me reimagine things. Let me, then I think I'm on the right track. Cheryl.
Yes.
How about you?
How did I know
How
you
will
would turn the tables?
Yes, let's hear you respond to this.
I haven't actually thought about this in a while, but as you were answering it, it was like, oh, wow, it's changed so much for me. And I know what you mean about, I think in the past, I really had been very focused on, a goal or having goals that were measurable. And now it's different. I feel like the most important thing for me is to know that each day I did my best to be authentic, to be transparent, to be a contribution in some way, even if it's just in my own family. And that if I know that I've really given that my best, that I've spoken what is my truth, if I'm willing to speak up and say what's on my mind and not be afraid, or maybe I'm afraid, but I say it anyway, to take those risks, to do whatever I need to do to kind of heal those parts of myself that would stand in the way of me doing what I'm here to do. When I look back at my life, that would make me feel great that I really did my best to do my mission. And when I say do my mission, it means every day. It doesn't mean some big lofty goal, although I do have them in my mind. Like I want to help as many people as possible, but it's not measurable. It really isn't. It's like, when is enough? Not every single I'm not going to touch the lives of every single person. That would be quite unlikely that one person would do that. And everyone resonates with someone differently. So I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I'm totally okay with that. But for those that want to have tea with me, and like my kind of tea. I want to know that I was willing to show up and willing to be the best me that I can, the best version of myself. And only I get to decide what that best version is. And right now, authenticity, love, compassion, and standing in my truth, unwavering, and not being swayed by anything or anyone. Yeah.
That's gorgeous. That is so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
The so this conversation's been really helpful, and I think we've gone over our normal time that we do a show in, but I just want to bring this all back to our listeners again and see if there's anything more you want to say about this conversation as it relates to universal women really stepping into their fullness and igniting radical cultural change like we talk about on the show.
Yes, and where are, you can ask yourself, just as I try to do on a regular basis, you can ask yourself, are there areas where I really want to be showing up more, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. And then when it's your final days on the planet, you can say, yeah, I did a pretty good job. I wasn't perfect, but I showed up.
Showed up. Yeah, another thing that I want to show up for is more connection. Like right now, I'm feeling this virtual world, and I'm looking for ways to just literally connect every day more locally and feel that groundedness, because I'm so global right now that I'm missing that. So how do we show up every day? I love that. How do we show up every day? I love the authentic, transparent piece of you, and yes, the love and compassions, I imagine, always there, if not a huge part of the time. I know we all go through little things, but I love that about you. And I think that's something that will inspire our women listeners and friends who are out there saying, how can I show up more? Because it's the little things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in the details. It's the little things. Yeah. Mm. Thank you, Sherryl Lin.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you to all of our listeners, viewers out there for showing up to participate in our conversation here. And if you have anything you'd like to add or questions you'd like to pose, you can get the information right here at the end of this video and connect with us and let us know your thoughts about your mission or your purpose here on the planet.
Yeah, let's connect. Thank you. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.